Hello and welcome to Adventures in Venueland, an EVMC podcast. Join us for this all-access pass backstage and behind the scenes with some of the brightest minds that cross the scope of the live event industry. I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. We'll introduce you to incredible guests who journey with us as we dive deep into the world of venues, tours, festivals, and everything in between. Grab your laminate and meet us in Venueland.
Today's adventure takes us to Austin, Texas. We're going to check in with a woman who had extensive experience in digital strategy, branding, ad tech analytics, and paid media. We're talking about Lillian Lee. She's the VP of Digital Marketing and Strategy at FIVO. Lillian, thanks for making the time.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you guys.
Yeah, we've been excited to talk to you for a little bit here, but let's start with the person who's never heard of FIVO. What exactly is FIVO in 2024?
Oh gosh, we just had our sales kickoff actually, and one of the sessions was like, if you can't pitch FIVO in like 30 seconds, that's actually a good thing. We do quite a lot here, but FIVO.
So you're under pressure here.
I know. Like put a timer on. FIVO largely is an e-commerce company. We specialize right now in professional sports ticketing, largely, but we're always looking at avenues to expand. So it's about digitizing an industry. It's about revolutionizing, if you will, the checkout process online and making shopping online a little bit more fun, a little bit more fluid. So yeah, lots of avenues to go down there, but that's the quick and dirty of it.
So you got it in under 30 seconds.
Tell us about your role there as VP of Digital Marketing and Strategy. What is it you do for FIVO?
Yeah, so it's a little bit of internal marketing, brand strategies, anything that touches the digital space, which, being an online e-commerce company is like everything, it's like the marketing umbrella that keeps growing and expanding, as I'm sure you guys know. So anything web presence wise, and then, going into product marketing, email marketing. We also have a client marketing services team that helps our partners optimize their FIVO campaigns with their marketing spends in like a consultative manner. So lots of, how do I say it? Lots of hats worn under the digital
Sure.
Yes.
Endless hats, as we all know so well.
Hats. Yeah.
So you're working with, or FIVO, I should say, is working with all these different sports teams. Is it all the major, professional leagues? Is it, certain ones? Are you kind of seeing certain leagues adopt it faster, maybe than others?
Yeah, totally. We have a large share of professional sports teams using FIVO, as well as college athletics, minor leagues, and a few other one-off music festivals and
Sure.
promoter brands as well. We have a pretty big presence in the Vegas nightlife scene and motorsports as well. So we work with NASCAR and Speedway Motorsports and things like that. So it really runs the gamut and we really call it like an experiences company, right? So
yeah.
Not exclusive to one team or one league over another. But in terms of adoption, market share wise, I think we have a pretty good grasp. I think the next big challenge for us is going deep cross-departmentally with these orgs, or just getting, activation and adoption on the platform with all the new features that we're pushing out.
We obviously, we don't get paid for doing this. And so Paul and I are just volunteers. So we have no financial interest, but I'm just curious, about the company and things. So what makes FIVO different than the other folks out there doing the same kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think if we want to talk about the ticketing space, I think my background comes from a subsect of ticketing. I used to be in music festival ticketing at Front Gate Tickets. And what we're trying to do here at FIVO is like take some of these models that have been around for a while in the ticketing space and kind of turn it upend it, turn it around, flip it on its side and see how can we make that process of buying tickets, coordinating with friends, buying 10 tickets and not having to Venmo back and forth and making sure that, Paul, don't drop out at the last minute or you owe me $150 type thing. Making that process a little bit easier, a little bit more like seamless, less clunky, less cumbersome. And at the end of the day, it's like, if we can make that online process of purchasing tickets or, buying anything online a little bit more interconnected with the people that you're shopping with, coordinating with, I think all parties kind of like see the upside in that.
I like the approach of sort of trying to take a fresh look at things. I think when we look at the live event industry, so much is just evolved out of what things have been over time, even
For sure.
Ticketing platforms, obviously they were way back in the day before my time in it, but they were doing hard tickets and then they were doing this like DOS matrix style ticketing. And
Totally.
there's still people that know how to do that. But it does seem like, how do we improve this machine? And so I like the idea of like, maybe we just build a better machine. Maybe it's not improving.
Maybe take all the best parts of the machine and make a better transformer machine. Yeah.
Because sometimes I think we're in the thick of it so much that it's always just like, how can we make what we're already doing more efficient? And we don't often have the time or space to take a step back and say, well, maybe what we're doing is not the most efficient. How do we reinvent that? So I like the approach to kind of making it a little more like welcoming and a little more interactive and enjoyable for fans, because I'm sure we all hear just ticketing, often is misconception of fans, but that is usually like one of the most pain points, for people when they're trying to purchase a ticket.
For sure. Yeah, I think there's a time and a place for like a quick transaction of, we always liken it to like, if you're wanting to buy 12 rolls of toilet paper, you can go on Amazon, buy one click and have it shipped to your door the next day. And that's great and fine, but it's like a super solitary experience, right? You're just like very utilitarian versus, in an experiences world where you're trying to go with friends or there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of moving funds, So I think the idea of making this very virtual 2D kind of world a little bit more personal is the goal.
Yeah.
I
love that.
So we got the kind of big overview on what your job is, but what do you actually do?
What do I do?
What's a week like for you? Are you working from home? Are you working in the office? And what's your workflow?
You travel some, right?
Since FIVO, it's been completely remote. We're a totally remote workplace, which has been super fun. And even pre-COVID, that's always been the case. But, since COVID and the post-COVID world, if you will, post-COVID, if that's a thing, everybody's kind of remote. We have lots of folks in all different places. And that's been really nice to have that kind of reach and have different connections in different pockets of the world. That's been really cool to experience. But in terms of like a week in my life, I mean, it's a very low key life. I feel like I'm in this room for a large part of it. But yeah, for work, the week is kind of variable. Like we have, our standard stand-ups and we're a pretty Zoom heavy company just because of the remote work policy. It's nice to get FaceTime in that way. But other than that, the week is pretty low key. I have a dog, I have a girlfriend, and that really rounds out the rest of the hours of the day.
We're looking at your awesome Casey Musgraves poster on your wall, which I love. I'm a big poster fan. Oh, what is that other one?
That's Beyonce, the queen.
Oh, that little unknown artist. Yeah.
You know her.
The Queen Bee. Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
If I have the time, I'll pick up the guitar every now and then. But
so you do dabble with it.
Okay. I do dabble.
Sometimes people have them on the wall for show because they're in this industry, but you actually will pick it up, serenade your coworkers via Zoom.
Yeah. I graduated with a music degree to my parents' dismay, but that was fun. That was super fun. That was a fun conversation to have at 18, but also a fun experience in college. And then, went into the music industry. And now I'm in a side world of ticketing, which has been fun and a fun transition.
Yeah, definitely want to get into that a little bit. But before that, so who are you working with mostly? Are you working with just FIVO? Are you talking to venues? Are you talking with the teams? How are, what's kind of your your area that you're really focused on throughout the days?
Yeah, it's a lot of my team is really on the front lines of communications, like product marketing or email marketing with our clients. All of the updates that we're making internally to the product, to operations, and things like that. My team's making sure that internally our team is aware of what's going on, as well as our clients. So my stake in the game is really like cross-departmental operations processes, making sure that my team feels represented, has its seat at the table in any sort of like big conversations that are happening internally. And then I come from a client marketing services side of the house, so that my team there has a special place in my heart. So I love interfacing with clients. I love, getting in the weeds with what their goals are, what their org looks like, what tools they have in their tool belt to work with, and what magic we can make happen. That's always a fun part of the job. But yeah, it's a little bit of maybe like 60-40 internal versus client facing stuff.
Sure.
But yeah, a lot of fun.
I'm sure you see a wide variety of setups and organizations too. I mean, you're talking ticketing and marketing. There's people that maybe have like one person working in each of those departments to teams that might have 40 in each of those departments. And,
For sure.
it is fascinating. I find fascinating to see how some people organize, and especially to try to adapt. Now you have people that are just over branding, or you have people that are very specifically kind of niche on social media roles or something like that. That wasn't always the case, but I'm sure that's kind of fascinating to see how these different teams or groups or organizations are all sort of approaching it in 100 different ways, and hopefully they work.
It's always the paradox of the larger the establishment, the less they want to hands-on approach, and the smaller the team or the org, the more hands-on you have to be, or the more white glove service you should be. It's a little bit of like, how much do I invest for the payout type thing. But at the end of the day, I think the approach is like definitely custom for each team, each org. And it's, to your point, Paul, like very interesting to see, even within the same league, how different the departments are made up. Sometimes we don't talk to the marketing team, and sometimes we do. Largely it's the group sales team, or maybe it's just the ticket ops team to set up the inventory, right? It totally runs the gamut. And then you flip side to like the music side of the house, or the music festival side of the house, or the concert and venue side of the house. And it's marketing doesn't mean the same in those worlds. So it's definitely interesting to see.
What are you kind of seeing as there was that huge post-pandemic surge of tickets where you couldn't put a show on sale without breaking records? Are you seeing these trends continue, and the live entertainment, just the draw of it continue just to be such a huge thing, or how are you seeing that trending?
I think live events will always be a hot ticket item, right? Like I don't think that's going anywhere. I do think promoters and orgs are trying different things and being more creative and letting go of some of the more traditional ways of selling and marketing to tap into interest and tap into, consumer psyche, if you will. So, we've seen teams or orgs that haven't been digital previously hit the market with like promo sales and discount codes, or take advantage of Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Like that's never been the case for them before. And they're just finding net new ways or net new audiences to bring into their world. And then I think a lot of our teams and a lot of our orgs are hyper focused on making that experience, once they're in the venue or in the arena or what have you, like exceptionally memorable. Whereas I feel like prior to, this post-COVID world, there was a lot of, I don't want to say resting on laurels, but leaning on the brand name to bring people in the door. And then, the team plays as the team plays, and that's great. But I think since then, there's a lot of focus on what can we do on the concourse? What can we do at the halftime? So what can we do? There's so many different opportunities and real estate and time in venue that I think people are taking advantage of more and more.
Yeah, and I think that's a mix too of both a demand by the consumer. I think also there is this kind of as more venues are doing this now, you buy a ticket and you go to a show and you're like, oh, they don't have a photo op. Like every other venue has a photo op now, like, so I think it's like, we've probably all like hurt ourselves by raising that bar higher. But I do think it is becoming this more of, part of that is this, I don't know, it sounds very old school, but like, this new generation, this new sharing kind of thing, this creating this experience, beyond live events. I think that is this thing that people demand, they want. And so it's kind of matching that overall trend, but then also, of course, competing against every other venue. And
100%.
you're not just going to a concert to see Elton John, you're going in and now you can put on sunglasses that look like you are Elton John, or it's like it's this whole thing that people are now expected to do, because I don't know, it'll be interesting to see how long that lasts or what evolution it takes. I think we always see those things kind of evolve over time, and
Totally.
and they're getting more creative, which is really fun.
Yeah, totally. It's so funny. After coming to EVMC and meeting so many venue marketers, it makes my experience in venues, in arenas, that much more like analytical,
Sure. Yeah.
walking around the concourse and be like, man,
it breaks your mind.
Totally.
You can't go to a normal event without being like, oh, that's what they're putting on their ribbon board.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
More so I just hear about, or, I feel like at the conference, we feature so many like, award-winning interactive displays and in-venue kind of experiences that when I go to one that's, not as up to snuff, I'm like, done more.
Yeah, you guys really phoned it in on this one.
I know.
It's true. I mean, it's kind of the cool thing about it.
Speaking of travels, are you a Texan by birth?
I am not a Texan by birth. I moved to Texas sight unseen after college, which was wild. But I am from New Jersey, born and raised, and went to school in New York City, and then moved to Austin back in 2013. So I've been here for about coming up on 10, 12, 11 years.
Which is sort of
math.
Early on that Austin wave too, right? Like,
I know,
I guess Austin's been growing so much for probably more than 10 years, but it seems like it has exponentially boomed in the last
the boom of it for the past maybe like five, six. And definitely after COVID or because of COVID. But yeah, that's when I kick myself of being like, man, I should have bought a house 10 years ago. But then,
damn it.
I'm like 22 years old. You're like, I didn't have money for a house. What am I doing? Like, what are you talking about?
You had no idea how much money you had.
Right.
All right. So you're going to NYU, you're studying music. How do you end up in Austin, Texas?
Well, part of the curriculum at NYU, which I was overwhelmed with at the time, but really thankful for afterwards, was split up into basically 3 sections or 3 types of courses you had, or 4, I guess. You had your like music business. I went to school for music business, but you had your part of the curriculum set up for music business classes. So you had your like 101s of publishing and entertainment law and record label and all that stuff. So that was really fun. Gave you like a sneak peek into what you might want to go into, music publishing or supervision or stuff like that. And then you had your business courses. So you did your finance, your accounting, your management, all that stuff. And then you had your music theory classes, which was wild. So you had to do like oral comprehension and keyboard harmony and all that stuff. So that was fun. And the other part of it was just internships. So you had a good chunk of your credit load that was dedicated to internships. So you're just like running around the city, going to different, music shops and publishing houses and things like that, and trying to like network and, get coffee and stuff like that. So one of the internships in my junior year was with this like indie promoter that was doing a lot of club shows, putting on a lot of club shows in Brooklyn. And that was super fun because it really tapped into my minor, which was like brand marketing and largely digital marketing at the time, which is like super evolved since then. But, we were putting on shows in Brooklyn and putting on parties down at Empire Garage in Austin for South by Southwest. And closing off my senior year, they were like, okay, we're going to focus all of our time and energy into this venue. We're going to buy it. We're going to bring it up and make it a full venue. You can either move with us or, get another job. So, this was like 2013 and all of my friends were freaking out, not, applying for jobs and not getting any. So I think that was like the theme of the job market at the time. So I was like, okay, well, we're going to pack a car and we're going to move down there. So I did that, rolled up into a venue, and, that was what I did for like a year and a half, I want to say. And that when you're trying to open up a venue at, how old was I? 22. You're doing everything from like,
Oh yeah,
building a stage to setting up the bar to doing admin work and helping the buyer, gets contracts signed and, closing out and paying artists their, bundle of cash or whatever. Right. So that was like a crash course into live events and the music business in general.
Are you terrified now that they gave a 22-year-old that power?
I like
knowing what
it
you
is
know now.
the stories that I have from that year of just like running around as a 20-year-old, like doing what God knows what, you guys know.
Yeah.
But you can only do that. I mean, at least I could only do that when I was 22. Like thinking about how little hours I slept or how many like alcoholic beverages I drank weekly, like that was kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy to think about now because like it takes a lot for me to like leave my house these days,
Right.
Amen. I hear that. So what was the venue? What was it called?
It's called Empire Control Room and Garage. They basically took this old automotive garage and renovated it and made it, a three stage venue. So that experience was wild. Period.
You learn a lot there in a job like that where you can experience all those things that you would never get to do had you started in a big venue.
Totally.
So tell me about the transition from there to Willowwood Music.
Oh yeah, so Willowwood was more of like a passion project. That was I met some friends, well, not strangers at the time, during South by Southwest, and we hit it off. And it was two girls named Lauren and Nicola, and they were running a music publishing blog. And I had a scholarship to NYU for writing. And so we kind of joined forces, and I was writing some pieces and helping with some of the sponsorship packages for their South by Southwest showcases. But that was probably like a couple years worth of time, like that, like dedicated effort, but largely like a passion project, side hustle type thing. That was super fun. It was like working with your friends and putting on parties.
That's a good thing.
South by Southwest so much, and obviously all of us in this industry know what that is, but what is that like being so involved on this, especially South by Southwest? I feel like it's still really huge event, but I feel like I would hear about some of these, shows that were going on in that early 20 teens, and it was bonkers. People are just overflowing into all the streets. You have these big bands like Metallica that are doing shows that they go under a secret name, and I'm sure it was just a otherworldly experience to kind of not only be working at a venue but also working with this other company that's kind of involved in that event. What was that like? Did you know any different? Were you just like, this is live events and it was chaos?
Well, I feel like I had a ramp up to South by because I was helping put on our shows at Empire from afar. Like I was doing that remotely in New York and reaching out to bands, seeing if they wanted to play, negotiating deals and stuff like that. But, marketing the shows and working with the labels and the showcase, promoters that wanted to host at the venue. So I had a little bit of a crash course there. And then being on site, I mean, like it really does not compare. Like being an attendee at South by Southwest is largely overwhelming. There's so many people. There's so many things to do.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Being a venue owner or a promoter at South by is also, everybody has their own like beast of a time for like a week and a half. But as a venue or as a promoter, you're just working with like last minute updates, changes, artists can't get to the venue, or, schedule changes, lineup changes, staff is sick, or, transportation breaks down. There's so many things that can go wrong. And it's just a mad dash. It's just nonstop for a week and a half. And then as as an artist, I can't imagine. I mean, I follow some of the artists that are playing South by, like, in recent years, and it's still that same kind of like, you gotta lug your instrument cases and your equipment across like a gravel parking lot in 100-degree weather to get to a venue to play for 20 minutes. And you know what I mean? But it is really fun. Like you do stumble upon those like 1,000-cap rooms playing like a big name artist, like a Metallica or something like that. Or like Brian Eno playing like his like low key DJ set, at like a 300-cap room. It's just fun. And you just wind up having these like once in a lifetime opportunities or experiences that you're like, this is crazy, right?
Right. Yeah. Plus it sounds like when you get, when you are working at a venue and you just experience every imaginable hiccup and having to problem solve. I mean, we all know that's partly one of the things you get from just working in this industry longer is eventually you get a little desensitized to problems in a good way. Totally. Like whatever comes along, I probably have seen it before, but if not, I know not to get rattled, and you kind of just take this very rational approach because you just like, this is what happens, and I think that's what you see maybe from people that are less experienced is they maybe get a little more knee jerky or a little more, reactive, when some problem happens. And in reality, when you go through this ringer and you're like, oh my gosh, my staff was sick or whatever it is, the artist is, stuck over here. I think you have this experience where that, no matter what comes up, you're going to find some sort of solution.
Totally. And I think that only, to your point, comes with experience. You're either like level-headed right off and nothing phases you, or you've seen so much
Right.
and you're just like, okay, this.
Yeah, exactly. So talk to me about getting into the world of ticketing, because you after this you kind of spent around, I don't know, nearly 5 years with a company called FrontGate Tickets.
Yeah, so FrontGate was fun. They are a ticketing company. They were acquired by Ticketmaster like shortly after I joined, but they had been around for a while. They were an independent ticketing company, and they were working with like promoters like C3 largely that put on Lollapalooza and Austin City Limits and things like that, and a lot of the club shows in Austin. So FrontGate was doing ticketing for that, and while I was at Empire, we were in the process of negotiating a deal for FrontGate to take over ticketing at Empire. So I made some contacts there. And so when I left Empire, a friend at FrontGate reached out and said, hey, there's an opening if you're interested. And that was in the digital marketing space, which was largely, more technical digital media, behind everything preceding the actual event happening, which was different for me, But that's how I kind of transitioned into the ticketing space. And I went from like a part-time digital marketing coordinator to like leading the team there through the acquisition at Ticketmaster. Went through like 3 VPs there and built out the digital marketing team and the client marketing services product suite of services, if you will. So yeah, that was the transition into FrontGate. It was largely due to networking and just wanting to still be in that space, but maybe not being so in that space.
And then just before the pandemic, right, you make that transition over to FIVO.
Yeah, that was fun. So that story also was like a networking kind of serendipitous moment. One of the clients that I had at FrontGate hired out a contractor for their marketing efforts, and that was Betty Tran, who is now FIVO's COO. So we had worked together on a couple projects while I was at FrontGate. And then when I left FrontGate, I reached out to her, and she at the time was doing some independent contracting work still, like she was when I was working with her at FrontGate. So I asked her, I was like, okay, this is like a very pivotal time in my career. What do I do? Do I hit the ground, hit the pavement and start applying for jobs in the same kind of digital marketing space? Do I want to stay in live events? Do I want to go work for myself? I could probably do this like contracting thing for a while. And she really gave me kind of like the brass tacks of it. She was like, it's awesome working for yourself, but it is a grind. Like she was saying, I didn't have a steady flow of things. You really have to work at it for like 2 to 3 years. And at the time I was like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if I have
that's commitment. Yeah.
I don't have the commitment. I don't think I have like the grit for that. That feels a little bit, I don't know if I can have that volatility in my life for 2 to 3 years. But, she was super gracious and was like, if jobs are coming my way and I don't have the bandwidth to handle it, I'll reach out to you because, we have the history. I know you can handle it, all that stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. That sounds awesome. Not really thinking that people will give you lip service all the time in the industry, but like, I didn't really think about it for a while. And then I think she called me like 3 months later and was like, hey, I'm getting tapped to be the CMO at this e-com company. It's a lot of what you're doing right now. We're going to roll out branding for this tech company. That's the project you're going to be working on. I want you to come on contractor and help me with that project. We work a lot with music festival partners. And so when I joined, we had this new branding that we were trying to roll out. And I realized that I got bamboozled because we had no music festival partners and it was largely sports. And it was largely sports, as you guys know. And so that was a big learning curve for me. I played sports all my life, but I never was like fanatical about any sort of team or league or anything like that. Just like a very casual spectator. You tell me who to cheer for and I'll cheer so hard for that team. You let me know type thing. Well, I'll have a great time. But yeah, very much like unaware of the leagues and the minor leagues and how many minor leagues per sport. Like that to me was net new. So that was a fun learning curve. And then, the transition to FIVA was really easy in that it was, the opportunity kind of like fell in my lap, which is, I'm very lucky to have that have happened. But the grind to learn was tough. And then working at a tech company versus a event ticketing company was different too, just in terms of how departments operate and how operations are different.
It's a lot to take in. I'm sure going through that whole process. What's one big takeaway you think that helped you from the live event side kind of roll into that whole tech side of things?
I think Paul's point of once you see it all, there's not a lot that can make you lose your cool. I think in the live event space, you also meet a lot of people and different personalities that you have to manage your own kind of boundaries with. And that was definitely something that I carried into the new space. And just honestly, like knowing that I was still pretty young, I'm still young. We're all still young, gents. Just being open to all of the new experiences. Like you think you have a good handle on things and there's always a better way to do something, or there's always a different way to do something.
Yeah.
To like kind of shift your perspective. So I think that's definitely something that I've carried with me. And then just a general industry, tidbit of like never burn any bridges. That was always
Amen.
like aggressively hard line, hard theme to follow for your entire career. The industry, especially ours, is so small. It's so small. So
people are moving always. So it's like you think you may not ever run into this person again, 100%. And
but you will.
You're hiring them, or they're hiring you, or you are on a sales call with them or something.
Totally. You run into them at a conference in Seattle.
Exactly.
Lillian, we talked a lot about your work, but at home you mentioned the girlfriend, you mentioned the dog. Give us a little bit of Lillian home life.
Oh, okay. So my dog, let me start with the first love of my life. My dog is a Texas street dog. I've had him for 7 years, just like this past weekend. And I'm feeling very sentimental about it. And I think it's like very much a dog mom trait where you're just like looking at your very healthy dog and being like, oh my gosh, the day that you die, I will be a wrecked person forever. I'll never recover from this. But yeah, we have a good time. He's very chill. His name is Copper. I don't know if I mentioned that. But
no, what kind of dog?
He's a Texas street dog. Here, let me show you.
Is that like a mutt? Oh, love him.
Just a little
what
guy.
Beautiful color.
He looks so comfortable in his little circular
so many beds
bed
in this house. The amount of money I've spent on dog beds in this house.
Let me tell you, Dave and I are both dog owners. We feel the pain.
We get it.
And the love, Yeah.
But yeah, it's largely spending money on this guy. And then my girlfriend, we've been together for 4.5 years. Wait, what year is it? 4.5 years?
Yeah, 2024.
4.5 years. We bought a house last year, so that's been largely like our big project. We bought a couch yesterday after a year and a half of living in this house.
Getting serious.
Getting serious, like it's so funny because we joke about like getting engaged and all that stuff, like getting personal here, guys, but getting engaged and all that stuff. And I'm like, I got an engagement house. I don't know what you're talking about. Like we've been engaged. I've got an engagement
couch.
Yeah, the couch, right? Yeah.
The house and the couch.
A ring when you've got a really comfy couch.
Totally. But yeah, she's also in the tech space. And so I feel very lucky to have insights into like how a big tech company works. Because FIVO's, I think we're at 150, just a little over 150 employees. And her company is at like, I don't know, 2,000. Who knows?
Oh, wow, man.
Something way beyond where we're at. So it's really interesting to compare notes on how different orgs are working and how different processes are working. And
we mentioned music earlier, and you obviously have the guitar on the wall. Do you still play music? Did you how did you get into your love of music? You said that your parents kind of were not a huge fan of you majoring in it, but like, is that something you went to shows as a kid? Where did you find your love of music, and how does it kind of still come through?
Yeah, I have always played music growing up. My parents put me into piano lessons, which I like vehemently refused to go to, which I regret to this day. I was such an asshole little kid.
We all were.
But yeah, I played music throughout like grade school. The recorder, classic stuff. I know how to play flute. I know how to play guitar. I can sing. I can play ukulele. What else?
Nice.
Some clarinet, maybe. A couple other things. But yeah, that's always been the through line in my life. But I never like thought of it as a profession at all. I tried to become YouTube famous in college, so that was fun. If you search online, you could probably find it, which my FIVO colleagues have found it and have relentlessly brought that up every single.
Challenge us, then
I know it's not hard. I'm like chronically online, but yeah. And then so I think like my parents wanted me to have music in my life. My dad was super like musically talented, if you like musically inclined. But I don't think they ever thought of that as like a viable world, like stable income wise or stable career wise. So when I wanted to go, I wanted to be a lawyer for as long as I can remember. And it's one of those things where the second that my parents brought it up of like, hey, maybe you should be a lawyer, that the second that they brought it up, I was like, I don't want that. I don't want that anymore.
Music, rebel. Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm good. Pass. So I was like an angsty 18-year-old and I was like, this would be so fun. Let's just do this. And so I begged them to let me go. And yeah, it was a very, very unique experience. It definitely wasn't like your standard college experience that you see in the movies, but it made you grow up a lot just being in New York City. It made you have to like learn how to be professional, because a lot of the, the internship piece of it, you just were like dropped into the deep end of, quote unquote real world, that you just had to like learn how to shape up a little bit faster, I would imagine, the most.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, I think, I don't think my parents know what I do to this day, but
well, let them hear the podcast, and then maybe they will learn all about it.
Yeah,
here's a 30-second pitch, family.
All right. Well, hey, I know you are a very busy woman. We appreciate you taking the time to join us. Before we let you go, I want to hit you with our Fast Five. It's 5 quick questions, just looking for your short, instant response. First up, do you remember your very first concert?
Oh my gosh. It was like Motion City soundtrack in Sayreville, New Jersey. It was something like so niche and so like emo, so random.
Warped Tour era.
So
do you have a favorite concert?
I've seen Beyonce a couple times. That was like life-changing. This past one, her Renaissance tour. Like I went with my best friend and we had a couple of drinks, but it was one of those experiences where I was like, I can't have possibly been that drunk. It was just like euphoric to the point where I'm like, I don't really remember what happened.
I've heard it from other people about the same way. Exactly.
Yeah. It was the best time of my life and I couldn't tell you what happened during it.
That's amazing. All right. You mentioned music. What's your go-to karaoke song if you had to pick one?
Oh, If I'm feeling really indulgent, I really like Celine Dion's It's All Coming Back to Me. It's like 8 minutes long.
Wow. So you can sing.
But What's Up by Four Non Blondes. That's a crowd favorite.
I bet.
Yeah.
All right. What's one thing you really miss about New Jersey?
I miss the seasons and like some sort of dependable seasonality.
Yeah,
Sure.
Because it was 75 degrees the other day in Austin, and now it's like 20 and raining. So it really, you just can't win here with the weather.
Last question. What's your theme song? So cameras follow you all around, filming your life when you're not just in your home office. And what's the song that plays over the opening credits of the Lillian Lee show?
Oh my gosh, what a question. I got to think about this one. Can I just say, have to say something like Beyonce, some sort of like Love on Top, Single Ladies, even though I'm like very happily committed. Something like upbeat kind of energy, motivational, something that you can't really frown during it.
I love it. Lillian, if people want to find you online or follow along with FIVO, give us all the plugs. Anything you want to plug here?
For sure. So FIVO is largely online at Hello FIVO and at FIVO.com. And then you can find me on most places at Lillian Lee, LILLIAN LEEE. So 3 E's at the end.
3 E's at the end.
Yep. And you can probably also find my YouTube channel.
I was going to say, and you can find her on YouTube. Exactly.
Paul's going to work after this. I trust it.
You can see like me trying to play Beyonce on my guitar from like 10 years ago.
We're going to have you play like the coffee break at EVMC this next year or something.
Oh my
We'll have
gosh.
you playing Celine Dion.
Yes.
We're all
Please.
sipping caffeine.
This feels like everybody's nightmare, including mine.
Lillian, thank you for the time today. We really great talking to you.
Thank you so much, guys. It was really fun.
And a big thanks to everybody for listening to this episode of Adventures in Venueland. Remember, you can find more episodes or subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We do love your 5-star reviews. It helps others find us. Until the next adventure, I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Adventures in Venueland is a side project of the Event and Venue Marketing Conference, a marketing conference that brings together diversified event and venue professionals to cultivate education, collaboration, and innovation for the growing sports and live entertainment industry. Find out more at eventvenuemarketing.com.
Audio editing and mixing by Camille Faulkner.
Design and digital advertising by Megan Ebeck.
Copywriting and publicity by Samantha Marker.
Guest booking and brand strategies by Paul Hooper.
Guest research by Dave Rettelberger.
Marketing strategies by Paul Hooper, Megan Ebeck, and Samantha Marker. Thanks for joining us. Until the next adventure.